It's very important as we get to these very low numbers, and people across Victoria will have seen that we've moved from not just cases and close contacts, but a public health treatment for contacts of those close contacts. So extending that ring or casting the net a little wider to make sure that anybody who might be infected because of either a casual or an actual period of contact are quarantined and are safe, both themselves, but also safe from giving the virus to anybody else. Further to that, I've got another announcement to make today that from 11:59 p.m. on the 11th of October, a person who's been deemed a close contact by the Department of Health and Human Services must get tested for coronavirus on day 11 of their quarantine period. That testing is not mandatory as such, but if a person chooses not to take that coronavirus test on day 11 to establish that they are virus-free at that point, then their quarantine, their mandatory quarantine period, will be extended by a further 10 days. This is just an abundance of caution to make sure that we've got the most complete data, the most complete picture, and that if we're saying to someone, OK, you've done that time that you had to be away from others, this is just double-checking, triple-checking that you haven't in fact still got the virus, as you then go about, particularly if you're in, say, regional Victoria, moving about the community with a very different set of rules to metropolitan Melbourne. I am very pleased to be able to report, though, that all of the data, all the evidence suggests that a very, very high percentage of people are doing the right thing, and I'm very grateful to them. But this is just about giving us an even more complete picture at the back end of that period where people are isolating. Beyond further, I should say, regional Victorian businesses have been doing a fantastic job in recent weeks as they've opened up. They're not fully open or back to normal just yet. There'll be further steps that we'll have to take, and I'll come to those in a moment. But it's really important that we have a strong partnership between our public health officials, WorkSafe officials, authorised officers, all of those people who are out there checking to make sure that COVID-safe planning is being done and also adhered to. One important part about this is making sure that people from metropolitan Melbourne are only in regional Victoria for lawful purposes. Victoria Police obviously have the key role there in terms of roadblocks and checks, but there is also an important requirement that if you travel from metropolitan Melbourne into regional Victoria with a lawful reason, for a lawful purpose, the restrictions that apply to you in Melbourne travel with you. So, for instance, you could get a takeaway coffee, but you could not sit in a cafe or a restaurant, a pub, a bar. That's just not an option for you because you're coming from a community with a higher amount of virus, much greater amount of virus than regional Victoria. And in order to protect those very low numbers in regional Victoria, which is should be, I'm sure it is, a point of pride for everybody living in regional Victoria. Regional Victorians have done such an amazing job. We've got to make sure that those rules follow someone, only those who should be in regional Victoria, but the rules have to follow them as a secondary defence, if you like. Now, it is important, and from, again, on the same timeline, 11:59 p.m. October 11, businesses in regional Victoria will be required to take all reasonable steps to determine where a person is from before they are seated, for instance. This will have different applications in different settings, but there is a fine, there is a penalty of nearly $10,000, which is the standard business penalty for not complying with other parts of the COVID-safe plan. But this is all about trying to make sure that people who are going into regional Victoria, yes, with a lawful purpose, but making sure that they are taking the rules and restrictions from the higher virus community, metropolitan Melbourne, into a lower virus community, regional Victoria, follow them. That is all about keeping people safe. And look, and I'm very confident that we're not going to have to be issuing any of those fines. I think that regional businesses that are open want to stay open. They don't want outbreaks. They are keeping meticulous records. They're working very closely with us, and we're very, very grateful for that. But it is just about taking it that next step, and they have to take those reasonable steps to determine whether the customer is in fact from regional Victoria, and if the customer cannot satisfy the shop owner, the business, that they are from regional Victoria, then the default position will be that the rules apply to them, the Melbourne rules. So you can't be seated. You could have takeaway, but you can't come into the premise and stay. just as one common sense example. If there's a need, I'm sure there will be, for us to provide further information, some case studies, some clarity to any business in regional Victoria, of course we will do that. But it is an important step. The other way around this, of course, is just to make sure that if you are travelling into regional Victoria, you only go for a lawful reason. If you are found to be attempting to travel into regional Victoria without a lawful reason, then the fine is just under $5,000. And Victoria Police sadly have issued a number of those. The other thing as well, if you're going into regional Victoria and you are entitled to be there, then you yourself have to understand that it's simply unacceptable for you to be doing anything that might spread the virus in regional Victoria, and therefore the rules travel with you. That avoids many more cases in regional Victoria, and that's obviously the strategy that we are attempting to deliver. The